Today I'm going to tell you about 10 mistakes I made when buying an out-of-state investment property. It cost me well over $100,000. I'm going to tell you the mistakes I made, what I thought about them, and hopefully they can help you from making some of the same mistakes. Real estate investing seems awesome. There's so many people that tell you that's the way to financial freedom. I've owned 3 houses, 2 rental properties. I got sucked in thinking this was a way to keep growing my portfolio and financial freedom. I'm going to tell you the reasons why it didn't work out for me, and hopefully they help you too. Mistake number 1 when making an investment property out of state: falling in love with the idea of it versus the reality. We bought a house in Central Oregon almost 2 years ago. It's in the mountains. There's mountain biking, there's skiing close, fishing. I've been wanting a mountain retreat and fell in love with the idea of an A-frame up in the mountains. Due to some family circumstances, we were going up to Oregon a couple times a year, and I thought, this is it. This is the opportunity to make this dream come true. The concept of going up there just seemed great in my head. The reality of it was I bought a fixer-upper that was way more work and way more effort and money than I thought. Mistake number 2 when buying an out-of-state investment property: not researching how much I can rent it for. While I ran general numbers in my head, that was based on quick numbers versus the actual numbers. I didn't factor in utilities, internet, the average cost. While I could break even renting it, the risk versus reward just isn't there for me. Didn't look at full-time rental versus Airbnb, which is what I originally thought I was going to do with it. The problem with Airbnb and out-of-state property is if I'm not managing it because I'm out of state, I have to pay someone 25 to 30% management fee for that. Then you add in utilities, what you can actually rent it for, seasonality. The reality was I was losing money if I was going to do that. Mistake number 3 when buying an out-of-state investment property: not buying a house I was absolutely in love with or psyched on. I know that sounds counterintuitive when it's a rental, and here's why. At first, I was trying to find this house on the river, and due to certain circumstances, it didn't make sense to continue to purchase it because it was really expensive and the money really didn't work out there. So I went for something much cheaper that I thought, hey, this is a great rental. We can go there sometimes. And really close to town, part of town I liked. After working through a lot of the issues with the house for a while and being there more, I realized that I didn't like the neighbors. It was surrounded by kind of crappy houses. 2 of my neighbors drove semi-trucks for a living. On occasions when I would be there, there would be 2 semis without the big back cargo parked on our street, but they're still massive. There was another house had 3 cars that were seemingly always broken. I just couldn't see myself hanging out there where I want to be outside a lot and being in that situation with those houses. Why it doesn't matter if it's a rental property so much when you say, oh, don't fall in love with a rental property because people aren't going to take care of it, you know, whatever. Well, when you want it as a Airbnb, that's not the same thing as a long-term rental. As a long-term rental, yeah, people are going to mess up your house a little bit. That's just how it goes. Hopefully not a lot, and that's what you have deposits for. If you don't want to go there enough, and then you go through something like I did where you've sunk way more money into it than you should have, it starts to seem even less like it's worth it. If this was a house, a dream house, and go, you know what, this is costing me way more money than I thought, but when I retire in 5 years, 10 years, and I can go there all the time, and maybe it's paid off, then what's the big deal? But I don't want to go there all the time because I don't really like the house that much. So that's why in that case, it doesn't really work out and make as much sense. Okay, mistake number 4 when making an out-of-state rental investment property: underestimating improvement costs. The house was cheap by California standards, $120,000. I got a rehab loan, a quote from a contractor for $61K. I naively didn't factor in the things that he didn't include because the rehab loan could only be so high. In case you don't know how a rehab type loan works, they can give you a certain amount of money to rehab a house, but you've got to do an inspection. It's got to be able to pass the inspection when you're done, that all the things were handled that are in the bid, and they're not going to want to give you one on top of the total house. A $60K loan on a $120K house was a pretty big rehab budget, and so I thought, yeah, that's going to be enough. The reality is there's always more. You know, we said, oh, the windows were probably fine, but we ended up replacing all the windows. We took out all the drywall, all the electrical. And when we took out the drywall, we took out all the old kitchen cabinets in the whole kitchen. And we didn't say, oh, we're going to include that in the rehab budget. So eventually I ended up buying kitchen cabinets, kitchen sink, appliances, everything. The other things that we did, so the siding was technically fine, but it looked pretty shoddy. The best thing to do was to put all new HardieBacker siding on the whole house, which is impervious to weather. It's a great product. And that cost an extra, I don't know, I could look it up, at $8K, $10K to do the whole house. In my mind, I changed the way I want. It's hot there in the summer, so at first I wanted to switch. First we had these little cadet heaters in the house, but I'd been up there in the summer and it is pretty hot, and I thought, oh, if it's an Airbnb, it would be really nice to have AC. So that would mean a heat pump, which does AC and heating. And so I had that rewired, and then I got the cost for the heat pump and all that was like another 8 or 9 grand that I actually never did. In the end, when we sold the house, I just put in one more wall heater and called it good for like $1,000. It needed a new roof eventually, so that happened during the sale of the house that's going on right now. Flooring, so the rehab loan didn't include flooring, and then underneath, when we did pull up some of the old flooring, there was a lot of dry rot in some areas, so we took out the dry rot, and that was a couple $1,000 to fix that. It just went on and on and on. Honestly, the house was a teardown. I shouldn't have bought it, number one. But number two, I should have considered scraping it and buying a prefab house. It would have been nicer, and I'd still have the problem with the neighbors that I talked about earlier, that I don't really love that. Things snowball out of control, and it's like going to the moon. You're like, well, I've already gone to the moon, so I might as well go a little farther. And you get into this whole sunk cost phenomenon where you feel like you've invested all this money and then you don't want to stop. You know, especially when the house only costs $120 to start with. In the end, it'll be worth $250, but the max that house can sell for is maybe $250. It's selling for $215 right now after all this work, and it just turned into a mess. So really get down on what your costs are going to be if you're going to do a flip and a fixer-upper. It always costs more than you think. All right, mistake number 5 when purchasing an out-of-state rental property or investment property, especially one that needs a lot of work, is underestimating the amount of time it will take when you can't be there to manage the project. I actually had a really good contractor through the beginning, but when he first started, he was busy with other jobs, so he couldn't start for a couple months in. With a rehab loan, you only have 6 months to complete the work usually, and so time was ticking, and then he finally started getting going. But you have seasons that things can't be done. I thought I'd be going up there a lot more, which I'm going to talk about later. It's really difficult to manage a property, remodel, rehab, fixer-upper from out of state, from far away. You can't be there to accept shipments from different deliveries for what's being installed or dropped off. You can't check the work yourself in person, so you're relying on photos and videos. You're not there to kind of say, hey, where are you today? Like, are you showing up? Where's the crew? What's going on? And those are really important. Having been through a couple big remodel projects, you have to make decisions in the moment sometimes. If you're not there, you're relying on the contractor to text you or call you or send you a video or actually ask you for the right answer so you don't have to fix stuff later or whatever. So it's going to be slower than if you're in person. Construction projects are not typically smooth sailing anyhow. So take yourself out of being there to make people accountable, assuming that you're that kind of person that does that, adds to the timeline. I actually have a friend that lives in the town, and he was able to go over to the house for me on a couple of occasions and accept deliveries or check on something. But his time is valuable too. And so I'm paying my friend money to do things, and it kind of feels like you're asking for a favor, even though it's helping him out with a little bit of money. It's just like that's the type of stuff you have to deal with if you're not going to be there all the time. Mistake number 6 when buying an out-of-state investment or rental property: misjudging the amount of time that you'll be going there and being able to use it. At the time, we were going up to Oregon 3 times a year, and that sort of changed a little bit due to some situations maybe were foreseeable, but we're just not going there. Let's say we went through the whole project and we're good. You start to go, I need to use this property because we're paying for it, and we're not. And so you get an internal dilemma of wasting money on something. I'm almost to the point where I will spend any amount of money for an Airbnb because I don't own the house and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to take care of it. I don't have to pay utilities. I don't have to do anything. So what's $2,000 for a week when, if I don't have to be responsible for that place the other 50 weeks of the year? That's actually fantastic. Really be honest with yourself. When I was younger, I had a friend whose dad and him had bought a condo in Nicaragua. And for years, the only place he ever went to was Nicaragua because they bought it and he felt like he had to go there to make the use of it. So, it can be a double-edged sword on buying a property someplace that you like, but then you feel like you need to go there all the time. And maybe you don't have the time to go there as much as you originally thought. The mental weight that these can affect you is very real, and it's something to not take lightly. Mistake number 7 when buying an investment property that's out of state: nothing is certain. When I bought it, I was working from home. I was like, I can work from Oregon for a week or two, no problem. And fast forward 2 years, I changed jobs. I'm in office 5 days a week. We don't have that much flexible pay time off. We don't have a lot of sick days. I can't just drop everything and go up there and work for a week or two, because that's not the responsibility I took with this new job. So your life can change in ways that you didn't plan before. There's people going through layoffs and stuff, and maybe you don't have the money that you thought you had previously. There's just a lot of unknowns, and until you're making money from it, it's a liability. Even once you are making money from it, it can be a liability. What if I did get renters in there, and every 6 months I have some people moving out or flaking or whatever, and I've got to go up there and it's not rented for 2 weeks to a month? Let's say every year, $2,000 a month you're out when it's not being rented. So you've got to come up with that money. And what if they damage the place? And then you've got to go up there to get there to check it out and fix it. Or you're paying someone else. You're not just missing out on rent. You're paying the effort of somebody else to go and check on it, maintain it, etc., and get it ready to go again. So I just got a call today about the internet carrier in Oregon, and they're like, hey, the new person buying the house wants to transfer it into their name. I was like, great, one less bill that I'm paying for every month that I'm not using. It's shocking how frustrating it is to pay a $100 electrical bill that you're not using whatsoever and no one's using. You're like, there's another $100 every single month. $100, $100. I want to do the math on something. I pay, I think it's $14.74 a month plus $100 for utilities, $15.74 for $100 for electrical, plus $100 for water, plus $30 for internet. That's $17.04 times 21 months equals $17.04 times 21 months, $35,000 that I spent on the mortgage for this house during this whole renovation process. So the only nice thing about that is I did a 15-year loan, and so the amount I'm paying down on it is more than if it was a 30-year loan, although the payment is higher. Close to probably 40% of that is bringing down my equity. My equity has grown $18K since I bought the house because I've been paying on it so long. I have a little more equity in it. So I guess silver lining. Mistake 8 when buying an out-of-state investment property is the days on market the house might take to sell if you need to get out of it. A lot of Bay Area houses where I live, 30 days, no problem. I mean, things, you might have to lower the price a little bit, but it's going to sell. There's houses in the area where I bought that have been on market for 4-6 months, no problem, right? There's just not enough demand. And I priced my house and I'm trying to sell pretty competitively and did get an offer fairly quickly, but I definitely am leaving money on the table because of that as well. I'm paying the mortgage on it, so therefore it's losing me money every month that it's sitting. Typical in that area is 60 days on market, and I don't think people realize when it comes to selling a property how long it can take. You've got to get it ready to sell, which may include some updates or some painting, or then you've got to list it. You've got to do the agreement with a realtor. They've got to take photos. You've got to sometimes get some inspections done. Then you go and list it, and you're tied to the amount of time it takes to people to make an offer. Then how long is their offer going to be good for? It can take a while. Typically, I would say typically when you're selling a house, it's 3 months. So, that's 3 months that you're carrying the mortgage. Maybe it can happen a little faster. I did sell property here in the Bay Area. It was still 3 months total, but I had renters in there for a long time, so I did a lot of work that took a good month and a half. But the time of listing to closing was only like a month and a half, which is pretty quick. But I accepted the first offer. It was a good offer. Didn't have a lot of back and forth. It just depends. So you got to be really careful how long it's going to take to sell something in a different market than you're used to. Mistake number 9 when buying an out-of-state rental property: not realizing how long it would take to get it to where it needs to be. I've been paying the mortgage for 21 months and I've never rented it. That doesn't even take into account the 120 grand I spent on the remodel. 60 grand of that was part of the rehab loan, but 60K was extra money out of pocket. So I've lost so much money on this property, it's not even fun. The contractor couldn't start for 2 months. The kitchen cabinet order from Home Depot took 4 months. Now that we decided to sell it, that takes 3 months. It just has lasted forever. Mistake number 10 when buying an out-of-state investment property was I didn't listen to my gut. I told myself some of these things I've just mentioned, but I did it anyways. Sunk cost be damned, I'm selling it. The reality is it's not worth the stress. It's taken, even though it's taken a huge loss, I will feel better being out of it. And so that's maybe the lesson, is that no matter what, if everything is telling you don't do it, number one, don't do it. If you have more cons than pros, I remember going, oh, it might be hard to sell there. I told myself that. I still did it. So listen to yourself, be honest with yourself, do the math, sleep on it, wait 30 days. Right now, I'd basically rather be free of it than wait 5 more years and dealing with it. If I got renters in there, who knows if they're crazy. I have to go up there all the time. Every time it's unrented for a month, there's $2,000 of a loss, right? So those are the reasons that I'm selling the investment property that I bought out of state, because it's just not worth it for me anymore. This video is not telling anyone to not do this. I'm just saying I made a lot of mistakes. I made way more mistakes than I thought I would make. And that's both frustrating, but also something to take into account and understand as you decide to evaluate what you want to do with life. You don't have to just keep going. Sometimes knowing when to cut your losses. I cannot overstate this. If you've made a mistake and you haven't gotten out of it yet, you can get out of it. Life's short. Make the call that's going to feel best for you. I know, having sold my other property and getting out of this property, I feel lighter. I feel more flexible on what I want to do in the future. I feel good about it. And that tells me everything I need to know. Be financially responsible, know when to walk away, trust your instincts, and let's get financially free together.